This video will be on Chinese civilization, that is in the third chapter as a fourth main. Third chapter, fourth main for first PU, that is Chinese civilization. The first question that arises in our mind is, what are the river plains that helped the development of this Chinese civilization? Name the river valleys or valley on which Chinese civilization flourished. On three river plains, the Chinese civilization developed. The one is Wang Ho. The second one is Yangtze, and the third one is Xiqiang. So, the first river, that is Wang Ho, in the northern plain of China, it flows in the northern part of China. It is also called as Yellow River. And the two rivers, that is Yangtze and Xiqiang, are flowing in the southern part of China. These three rivers, the northern plain as well as southern plain, that provided modern challenges and minimum facilities to develop a civilization in China. If you see the geography of China, the China has a variety of physical features. It lies between Himalayas in the west as well as in the south, Pacific Ocean in the east, and desert in the north with Mongolia. Desert in the north, east, the Pacific Ocean, west and the south covered with the Himalayan mountains. The China has a wide variety of flora and fauna. China is also inhabited by a race named Mongolites. Mongolian race has been inhabited by China. In the beginning, the Chinese had to settle down in a tribal society. Like others, civilizations also was done on the same. They developed a gradual feudal system. China has the oldest as well as continuous civilization even today. One mark you have to keep in mind, China has the oldest civilization which is continued even today. It is always asked in your most of the IAS exams as prelims, which is the oldest civilization which is still continued is Chinese civilization. Chinese developed a unique civilization by around 5000 BC. But we do not know the remote past of this Chinese civilization. But we have a fair and a clear history from 1500 BC onwards. It also appears that China developed a civilization which is isolated to a larger extent. These Chinese are always proud of their civilization. Chinese also invented new techniques, equipments, tools for the development of science and technology, as well as they also developed a philosophy which influences human life in several ways. So this feudal society of Chinese was very much influenced for the development of a civilization. Early China was ruled by many kings. This China was ruled by many kings. In the beginning, they had a loose federal system or federation. In the later stages, they had a centralized administration. Later, as the time went on, they had a strong central administration. China has a long standing of political history, as you know, but the mythological sources dates the political history of China as early as 5,000 years. It is said that more than 15 dynasties have ruled China from 2100 BC to 911 CE. From 2100 BC to 911 CE till recent past. We have a substantial sources from 1500 BC onwards, as I mentioned earlier. The dynasties that ruled China has been divided into two parts mainly, that is dynasties of ancient era, begins with Xia dynasty, that is 2010 or 2100 to 1600 BC. And the next one is dynasties of imperial era, that is begins with Qin dynasty, that begins their administration in 221 BCE, to Manchu dynasty or Qing dynasty, that is ends in 1911 CE. So if you see, the Xia dynasty was the earliest dynasty which came into existence in and around 2100 or 2200 BC. And the last dynasty that ruled China is Qing dynasty or Manchu dynasty, which ended in 1911 CE. The political history of China has been classified, as I already have said, into two eras. The ancient era, that is also called as the dynasties of ancient era, that begins with the 2100 BCE to 221 BCE. The next one is dynasties of imperial era, that begins in 221 BCE to 911 CE. Let us see the names of these dynasties from the ancient time onwards. Xia dynasty, afterwards Yan dynasty, Zhou dynasty. Afterwards we will see that is the imperial era, that is begins from 221 BC, that is Qing dynasty. Next one Han dynasty, three kingdoms, Jin dynasty, southern and northern dynasties, Zhou dynasty, Tang dynasty, age of 10 kingdoms dynasty, Song dynasty, Yao dynasty, Ming dynasty, and finally the Manchu or Qing dynasty that ruled from 1164 to 1911 CE, that is on the eve of First World War. Till First World War this dynasty ruled. So the important dynasty, we will have little bit on look at it. The Zhou dynasty or Zhou dynasty was the longest serving dynasties of China. The rulers of this dynasty evolved the theory of the mandate of heaven. What is the meaning of mandate of heaven? Means divine origin theory, or God has appointed the rulers as a legitimate representative of gods. So gods are representative of kings are the representative of God or legitimate rulers of God on earth. In the 3rd and 4th BCE, century BCE, the rise of feudal lords you can witness in China, who were constantly engaged in wars. All were suppressed by Qin dynasty. You can see Qin dynasty that ruled in 221 BC to 206 BC. This dynasty suppressed all kinds of feudal lords' wars. They re-established a dynastic rule. The Qin rulers expanded their kingdoms into an empire, and they began imperial era. The famous ruler of this dynasty is Shi Huangdi, who is the greatest ruler of this dynasty, of China as well as of this dynasty. There is an 1-mark question that speaks about who is the greatest emperor or a ruler of China. Who was the greatest ruler of China? Without doubt, it is Shi Huangdi. Shi Huangdi belongs to the dynasty, is considered as the greatest ruler of this China. The name of this person can be divided into 2 parts, that is Shi. Shi means the first. The first, SHI means Shi, which means first. Huangdi means emperor, the second part. So combined together, the first emperor of China. I will explain why he has so. This man came from a province called Qin. Therefore, he adopted his name to be Qin Shi Huangdi. Now you can understand the country named China gets its name from Qin. Qin is the name that receives to this geographical boundary called China. China comes from a place named or a province called Qin. This man, Shi Huangdi, was from there, and he is the first emperor. The next question that also reminds us for 2 marks, this is the person who is called Shi Huangdi. Who built the Great Wall of China? The Great Wall of China also is registered in his name because he is the one who was the master behind building this Great Wall of China. Why did he build this Great Wall of China? Is to protect his country from the Mongolians and Huns invasion. Shi Huangdi also started official census and maintained peace and prosperity in the entire kingdom. You know, he has built already the Great Wall of China. Why he built? In order to protect his people. Why he want to protect? There was often attacks from the Huns and Mongolians that already destroyed the peace and prosperity of China. So to protect China from the attacks of Huns and Mongolians, he built the Great Wall of China. The one thing you need to remember about this one is he is a man of science. He hated what is known as history because he wants to state that the history of China should begin from him. So therefore he destroyed, burned all the historical works of the past. Therefore, we do not get a fair historical data of past before him. After him, we have a accurate data and information and sources, but before him, we do not have. So all the historians and all people who were against him and those who were weak in constructing the Wall of China were buried alive in the Wall of China. In this Wall of China, the Great Wall of China, many dead bodies, many people, those who opposed him, the scholars who were historians, were all buried in this Wall of China. We will see more details about the Wall of China when we come to the art and architecture of Chinese. But for present, this much is sufficient because we are also speaking about Shi Huangdi. He is the first person to bring the whole of China under one single rule, introduced a uniform system of administration by bringing uniform system of civil code and criminal code of laws. He divided the entire country for administration into 36 provinces and appointed civil and military officers for each province for the better administration. He traveled in disguise to understand the ills and disorders of the empire. He disguised himself, he took the form of a different people and traveled to know the problems and pains of his empires that happened. So, to bring a better administration, to know the ills of the people. He also constructed infrastructure developmental issues like construction of roads, canals, to connect far-flung parts of the empire so that a transport and communication happens very easily. He basically believed that people are indisciplined. So, he introduced strict laws and harsh punishments to bring order. He believed people are basically indisciplined, as we have seen in India. However, the government and other institutions wants to bring enlightenment, they are indisciplined. But he believed by introducing strict laws and harsh punishments, he can bring social order in the society. The emperor was for change. He was against all the old orders. It is said that he buried or burned the books which were belonged to old knowledge, that is especially history. He patronized scientists, but he opposed and killed historians. Many scholars who were against him or opposed him were buried alive in the Great Wall of China. So, that is about Shi Wuang Ti. With this, we will end the today's class.